Welcome to DVC Alumni, where every story inspires the next. The Alumni podcast where you get to hear the inspiring stories and transformation that DVC has had to offer its alumni. And now, on with the episode. Alrighty. And we are live. And so why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Okay. So I'm Madeline Hatch, and newly turned personal trainer. I'm based in Crockett, which if no one knows where that is, it's it's across the bridge from Vallejo. I think most people understand that. And I'm 31. And
Okay. Cool. So let's start with where you grew up. So, are you native to the Bay Area or are you kind of newly arrived?
I've been here for about 16 or coming on 17 years. I was originally from Orange County. So born and raised at the Hoag Hospital. Yeah.
Okay. And so you basically moved up here while you were in high school.
Yeah, it would have been like right in middle school.
Okay. What was that like? Because you got uprooted and, just dragged off in the middle. You had all your friends and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it was honestly a pretty challenging time. We had just lost our house in a house fire. And I was about like 8 or 9. We moved up to my grandparents' house and they were about 2 hours up in Apple Valley. And so we had gone from a place that had, what I liked was ballet classes, the beach, but yeah, some friends, a really nice school I went to, just a really nice community that I was in, to a place that I was kind of familiar with because I've visited there a few times, but it just also didn't feel like home, of course, and it was hot and there was no beaches and there was no classes to take and there were some friends that I'd made, but yeah, it was just a completely different experience.
So because we don't know where Crockett is, probably nobody knows where Apple Valley is. So why don't you go ahead and kind of explain where that is? Because I think it's like you go east from Orange County and then drive for a little while north. And then when you find that dead critter in the road, you make a left type of thing. So where is Apple Valley?
Pretty much. Let's see. It's pretty close to Bakersfield if I had to.
Yeah, I was born in Bakersfield, and it's a wonderful community to not be in. But no disrespect to Bakersfield, but it's a tough community. So
yeah.
So you went from and that had to be really tough because it's like your parents lost their house, and more than likely they were probably underinsured because that's the state. I mean, you think about all the devastating wildfires that went through there recently and people going, oh, they're rich people. And if you're got a $3 million home and you're only insured for $1.5 million, you now have to come up with. And if a lot of your assets are tied up in your real estate, man, you are just toast. Mm-hmm. So plus you have a mortgage on top of it. Now what do you do?
Exactly.
So what did your parents do for work?
My mom, she was into photography, and then my dad was a brokerage guy.
Oh, okay. So he was a trader.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was into, I think he helped real estate people with their brokerage.
Okay.
I don't totally know.
Okay. So you ended up in Apple Valley, which probably sucked because it was not Orange County and you didn't have any ballet classes out there or no beaches and nothing but, kind of the high desert type of stuff. And, yeah, and there's certainly great mountain biking out there. But unless you're into that, it's just like, okay, that's boring. So what got you guys from there up to here?
Well, within a couple of summers, my mom had gotten a teaching credential to teach at a Waldorf private school. So a lot like Montessori, Rudolph came from Germany and was just another way of teaching. So it was a K through 8 school here in El Sobrante. At the time, it was a K through high school, actually. And so my mom, she got a handwork teaching position, which, obviously that's not just anywhere. So we drive up to El Sobrante for the interview because we all have to be interviewed to be in this private school.
Really?
Yeah. And so it gives the teachers a chance to, assess where your best fit is. And so I actually did 7th grade twice because of that. And so, so we made our way up there, made some connections, found a place to stay or to live. And, we made our way up here and we've just kind of been up here ever since.
Okay. So what was that? So you moved from Orange County. I'm madly in love with it, right? It's got all the things you want as a kid. You go to grandma's place and it's like, oh my God, this is the sticks, right? And then you end up at this, it's called the Waldorf School.
Yeah.
Okay. And you end up there. And how was that experience? Doing 7th grade twice, that was, now on reflection, I'm sure you're like,
Yeah.
By the time it's like, oh my God, but
yeah.
What was that experience like? And like, what was your friends like?
You mean like, the two 7th grades?
Yeah. I mean, you get here, you got interviewed too.
Yeah.
And so what was, you move up and you were like, oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, I know as like a kid, I kind of just had, just those goggle visions, right? Like I just kind of saw and experienced life. But I do remember I was going to be placed in the 8th grade, but the teacher was like, I honestly just don't know if she would fit in with the kids here. Like the kids are kind of rough here in 8th grade. And I just think that she needs to have a better experience. So they put me back into the 7th grade. And yeah, it was definitely a good choice on their part to I fit in a lot better with that class and the teacher, and then that gave me an extra year of Waldorf, and that was pretty great. Because when I was in Orange County, I was the one that brought the family into it, because when I was in kindergarten, I was totally fine at home. I would talk. I was fun. I was outgoing. You take me to school, and I was a mute child the whole day. And so obviously my parents were like, oh, well, that's probably a sign. That's probably a sign that there's just something not right.
Mm-hmm.
And, the teachers would say like, oh, she needs to talk more. She needs to be like this. And my parents were like, maybe we just need to take her out and do something else. And so my mom was like, shoot, like I've never homeschooled before. What am I supposed to do? And one of her friends recommended the Waldorf School. And so she took me there, and I went to 1st through half of 4th grade, and then half of 4th grade is when the house fire happened. So,
jeez.
Yeah. So, going to then 7th grade, I got an extra 2 years of the Waldorf School. Yeah.
So cool. And where'd you go to high school at?
John Sweat.
Oh, okay. So now we're up to, so you guys ended up living in Crockett.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know, Crockett is where C&H Sugar is here in California. And actually, it's a great, I told you before we started, it's like I love cycling through there. I have a very good friend of mine, his wife grew up there. And she grew up in Pleasant Hill, but grandma still lives in Crockett, and they have rental property there that they just inherited. But it's a great little community, lots of cool hills if you like cycling hills. If you don't like cycling hills, don't go to Crockett bicycle. So you're there, you go to John Sweat, which is also a really cool looking high school compared to most around here. I mean, it's this brick building. It looks, looks like all the ones. Well, you haven't seen Northgate, so but it looks like the high school that you see in all the movies, from the Midwest. It just it's got the brick building, it's got the windows, and it's just, I have no idea what it was like going there. But so what was high school like for you there?
Well, going into freshman year was completely different, obviously, from the private school I'd experienced, where you're dancing around maypoles and it's very art focused, and yet you still have your science and your biology and whatnot. And this was just very different. It was very much like feeding the masses in a way. It was just get in your seat, listen to the teacher, go to your next class. It was just very rudimentary. And so for me to go from like this flow of a day, of a schedule, where it was very, child focused, to like, they need to achieve this, and this by this time. and they need A's while they're at it too. Like, so it was very much of a shift. There was, some kids who didn't like how happy I was.
So talk about that a little bit, because yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so when I was in high school, I was in drama and I loved it. Well, my dad had been in drama when I was a little kid. Like, he was in the Bakersfield Community Theater in Alaska. We were that. And so when we moved down here, it's like, it was just kind of a natural fit for me.
Okay.
But it's like, yeah, there are some people that just, and you either had to be really good at making friends or you were going to get picked on. So sounds like you were more on the, people.
Side.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about that. How did you work through that?
Well, I have a very vivid memory. There was one girl, and we get along just fine now. Like, she had a total change of heart, but in high school, she was, just very rough around the edges. And, but we had a couple of classes together, and I would just always come in just smile and happy and,
Heaven forbid, right?
I know, just ready for a great day. And she just, like, never said anything until this one day. She was just like, "Why are you always so happy? Like, why are you always smiling like that?" And I was just like, I don't know. I just, no problem with it, Didn't really think much of it. And then we had some other, encounter in a different class that we had together. And I stood my ground. I was just like, this isn't okay. You don't get to do that. Don't bring me down. You don't need to do that. And just from that moment on, she had like the most respect. And then she had a change of heart eventually. And her whole life is kind of different now. So it was just really interesting to see how that could have brought me down, and like that could have made me just as upset as she is, But when you're very convicted in, what makes you happy and what makes you believe in life and believe in good habits and things, then you stick with it and you inspire other people too. So I mean, most people like it, and especially you get to high school and you've just been dumped into the, into the system, we'll call it. Right.
It had to have been kind of a brutal shock, like a culture shock. And yet you had the courage to stand up for yourself and go, wait a minute now. So where did you develop that? Did you always kind of like have that, no, I know what I want?
It certainly has ebb and flowed. Like, I would say there's definitely been times where I've just been super lost. Like in middle school, there were some times. But I don't know, I think something like that just comes from, like, I could say, like, my dad was very encouraging, always tried to be a very happy person too. And I think that maybe my mom and dad were just very supportive, and like, if anyone tries to tell you, I think that they were a little bit more like, punch them in the face, but I just use my words. So
yeah. Well, you lean towards diplomacy as opposed to violence, which is a good thing. Well, and actually the middle school part, I think most everybody is lost in middle school. It's just that age group. And then on top of that, you were getting shuffled around. So it's just, all you need to do is, there didn't need to be anything added to make you feel lost. It just, all it had to do is hit that age.
Exactly.
So you get through high school, you graduate, you have a couple of friends that you're kind of hanging out with, and you end up did you come straight to DVC or did you do something else first?
Yeah. After I graduated, I went straight to DVC that fall. And, again, kind of just was a little bit lost as to what do I want to do. But I just kind of kept showing up, and that became my MO, was just, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just showing up. And then, so it took me a long time to figure out, like, what do I want to do? Like, what is my interest? And I took quite a couple years to figure out, I really like psychology. I always think about it. I didn't realize that was so, second nature for me. I kind of thought that's how it was for everybody, but clearly it's not. And so I finally sat with the counselor, which I should have done at the very beginning. I just didn't know. And I was just like, this is what I want to do. It probably would be a good idea to have an AA for transfer, just to give me that option. And then we'll just go from there. And so they made me a plan and I stuck to it. It took me about a year and a half.
The taking a while is a pretty common story here at DVC. Not everybody is like they come in, they've got their guns blazing and they're ready to go.
Yeah.
I know. Excuse me. Allergy season. So,
Yeah.
My oldest daughter, she came out of high school and she was like a wreck because she was like, she was an awesome student, but she was like, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? Go to DVC, you'll figure it out. And she did, it took her a little while but she did figure it out. And that was a big part of it, was just having that chance to get your wheels under you a little bit, get exposed to a bunch of stuff. And then you have that opportunity to kind of, do what's next. And I think that's actually an awesome thing because it's, I'm on, I think, my third, fourth, fifth career. So it's just like, life is not linear. So, and we'll get into that. So you got through with your general eds here at DVC with an AA, and you focused on psychology. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. What was your favorite class, or the thing that really sparked your interest, or the thing you remember the most?
Oh gosh. I've got some funny ones. I've got some ones that really, I guess, formed into what I do now. So to
talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've had on and off times where I've been exposed to fitness and been exposed to the gym. And so when I found that there was a gym here at DVC, I was like, oh, interesting. And it's a class. Like, you just show up, you work out for an hour. Like, what a way to hold yourself accountable. Like, and so I signed myself up and I showed up and I just loved it. And then I had my friend come and join this next semester. And I remember being really bummed out that you could only take the class like 3 times, because I was like, oh, like, I'll just stay here forever. But yeah, then having my friend there, I trained her a little bit, and then we just had a really good time, like just spending a couple hours a week there, and yeah.
Cool. And then so that kind of gave you a little taste for fitness, right?
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, oh, I kind of think I like this,
Yeah.
So you graduated and then you headed off to Cal State East Bay, or no, not Cal State East Bay. Sorry, Cal State Maritime. I'm really sorry about that. Sorry, guys. I just that was a slip there because I'm used to it. But no, Cal State Maritime is interesting because it's, first of all, they got a boat, which none of the Cal States, I think, have a boat. And they have a fantastic program for, the merchant marines and stuff like that. But, but was the decision to do that based on proximity? Because it's literally, you can, if you could throw a rock really far, and it wouldn't be that far.
Yeah.
You could hit it from Crockett. You can see the boat from Crockett.
Exactly. From my house, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, how that kind of worked out, I had graduated here, DVC, and this was like right as COVID was starting too. So our graduation was on
Zoom?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like a pre-made video, and you saw your names in the credits, and I thought, okay.
And you went, yay for me.
And my brother would be like, oh, good job.
That had to have been brutal. I mean, it's just, I know that during that time period, everyone was just trying to figure out what the heck was going on.
Seriously, yeah.
And so everything kind of went in a direction. And, now people are going, well, they should have known. It's like nobody knew.
No.
Nobody had a clue. So
we just did the best with what we could and what was safe and whatnot. So, and so, yeah, I had more of an idea of like, okay, I want to get into some psychology. I'll just, and my confidence was a lot higher too, because of like just have graduated and finally, felt like I accomplished something of my own. I'll just apply to all these big schools around, all these 4 years around here and see, who accepts me. And then I had like a moment where I looked across the bridge and I was like, that's, that's a school over there too. And I have, ridden my bike over there once and trying to recollect, any memory I have of that school. I don't have much, but I thought like, what would it hurt though to just send an application over there and see what happens? And I realized, well, they only have business administration that would to kind of fit what I would want to do. I don't really want to go on the boats. I don't really want to do any naval related thing. And so that's what I did. I applied, went onto their website, applied for that degree, and they were the only school that accepted me, like none of the other programs.
Well,
So
yeah, in hindsight, probably, because we now have like, well, again, this is COVID, so it's like everything was a mishmash. And so
yeah,
who knows what was going on. But,
exactly.
one of the things, we have a transfer department, which they work very heavily with students' career and transfer on getting folks from, okay, you on this path, where do you want to go? And they do school tours and stuff like that. So again, it's like, COVID, it's nobody knew what the heck was going on. Nobody knew what anybody else was doing. And I think 5 years in now from COVID, it's like the DVC has become a lot better about letting people know what's going on, things like you want to transfer, they have career tracks, and they have education tracks where it's just like they could sit there and, but anyways.
Okay.
So you end up going across the bridge. And so I got to ask, because I love that ride back and forth across the Carquinez Bridge. Did you ride your bicycle?
I did for about a month or two.
Okay.
Like first thing in the morning, because we had 7 a.m. formations. And yeah, I would take what bike we had and I'd ride across the bridge. It was pretty nice. It would really wake you up and everyone else would still be kind of half asleep, and because they could just walk down the campus and I'm just over here like
got your blood up. It's cold out.
And I'm like, so like I'm sweating because I have my scarf and like everything on, uniform and jacket and whatnot. And then after a while, I think it was when it became winter and it was starting to rain, I stopped and would drive.
You just need better clothes.
Exactly.
Right. It's like I ride back and forth even in the rain, and that's kind of a running joke here is that, it's like, well, if it's cloudy out, it's like, do you think it's going to rain? It's like, well, I'm going to jump on my bike, then it's going to rain. Because it just is, I seem to catch the, but that's where it's just like, I just bring the right clothes. So I got rain gear.
Okay.
So how did you like going there? I mean, granted, it was just right across a stone's throw. I mean, is it a nice campus, good school?
Oh my gosh, yeah. It was definitely such like a, what do you call it, the light at the end of the tunnel, because COVID was kind of rough and it was just kind of, I don't know, like it was just, there was a lot going on. And it was great. The campus is beautiful. The people are nice. You just feel so autonomous. You just feel like, all right, I got this.
I'm a big person now.
Yeah. And everyone's wearing uniform. So like, there's just, a uniformity. There is just like, we're all on the same page. We're all here for a reason. And you really felt like that too with the people, like the students, because they all had been going there for a couple years together. They all made friendships. And so being kind of the cohort that came in halfway through, there was a couple of us that were on that same boat. We kind of just had to squeeze ourselves in, make some friends. But still, it was like such a great experience. It was like just so eye-opening. And then just the topics themselves, like it was so up my alley. I just loved it. I really liked the professors a ton. Like the classrooms, like we're just perfect. Like there was really like most of the time, maybe 15, maybe 20 people in a class. And so maybe even less. There was probably some with less too. And so you really got to know the professor, and they really took the time to have meetings with you outside of class if you're having troubles or had questions. And so I felt very taken care of,
So what was your favorite class there?
Oh gosh. I I have quite a few that were, I kind of categorized my favorite as like which one just lit me up the most, because it was so different and so something I'd never learned. There was, organizational behavior. There was info management systems. That was tricky. I had extra tutoring for that one. Then there was like a couple logistics classes. That was very, very challenging, but like very informative too. Yeah, those ones kind of stood out to me the most.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, so you get through there, you have this wonderful experience there. You feel just like on fire, conquer the world. Had you decided to get into fitness at that point, or was that just kind of something that evolved as you went along?
It kind of just evolved. I just all the while throughout this whole entire journey of growing up, starting from when I moved to Apple Valley, honestly, is like when that started. It wasn't until after I graduated Cal Maritime where it really took off. I was kind of a little bit desperate for a job, and this personal training job in Martinez had shown up on Indeed.com, and I thought, like, well, I mean, it's in Martinez. It's like a 15-minute drive from Crockett. Might as well give it a try. And
or 30 minutes on a bicycle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I took it up, and that was also a massive eye-opener, in many ways, good and bad. And I just kind of decided that if I really wanted to go in on this, I might as well do it on my own.
So talk a little bit about the good and the bad, because the thing is I think what happens is often we launch into a business or we get a job, we think, oh, it's going to be all unicorns and fairies and stuff, and then it's like reality shows up. It's just like you got compliance, you got this, you got that, and it doesn't matter what job it is, but it's especially working for a small business, it's a lot different than working for the massive corporation.
Exactly, where everything's taken care of for you pretty much. You just sit and work. When I was working for the small business, it was like a small little studio gym, and they had been around for about 7 or so years. So it was pretty established, but still, it was one boss, like 4 trainers, like nobody else, just him running the whole entire show. He might have had a CPA or something like that, but it was just mostly him in the office. And so, it was definitely a mixed bag, because although I learned a lot about how to be a good personal trainer, that was probably the best part I took out of it. And I was contracted as a 1099 employee. And so I had to start my LLC, which for tax reasons, working for someone else doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But that just meant that like leaving was a lot easier too. And so then transitioning into doing it myself. So I had this LLC, and I thought, well, I've, got to go register. I just got to go through the process to make it official then. So went to the county clerk, did that whole thing. Just something in me knew that like, if I'm going in on this, I have to do that, like what they call the unsexy work too. They have to do the behind the scenes type of stuff too. And so I just had no idea what I was doing. Little by little, I was just gathering information. Someone would finally give me a piece of paper that says like, oh, if you're trying to, get your business going, you follow these steps. And I'd be like, oh, so, thank goodness, because I have no idea what I'm doing.
But by the way, almost nobody knows that.
Exactly.
So it's just like, it's one of those things where old people like me who've done it a million times still like struggle with it. So it's just,
right. It always changes. And
well, and the thing is, I mean, again, it's like, I think oftentimes a very good friend of mine, Scott Davis, shout out Scott. So a very good friend of mine, he made a comment once. He owned his own business for, oh my gosh, 25 years or something like that. He made a comment to me at one point, and he said, and he was very good at what he did, but he said he'd make a lousy employee because the thing is he liked it his way.
Exactly.
And I think that's true of most people that end up working for themselves is because they have a certain way they want to see it done. And the boss doesn't necessarily want to, buy into that, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the learning lesson there is just, if you're going to be your own boss, be your own boss. And it's tough. So you started filing out the paperwork. And where did you find the piece of paper that says this is how you do it?
It was at the county clerk in Martinez.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So because Crockett is unincorporated, you can't do very much there. So I had to go to Martinez and register there. And yeah, it was just a part of the paperwork. It gave you a packet of things to fill out, and one of them alongside the, so you have to post in the newsletter. So you have to pick one, post there, and just one of the sheets there just said how to start how to properly file your business. And I was like, okay, great. Let me just go through this. And so I did all the steps and, yeah.
Okay. And so when was that? That was
20, it was June of 23.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. So we're just coming out of COVID, because it was 23, 24 kind of still. We just finally got over the COVID hangover and stuff.
Exactly.
And so we're kind of getting out in the world.
Yeah.
So you decided to launch your own little spiel, right? And what's the name of your business?
So I registered it as Hatch Services LLC.
Okay. Actually, that's good and generic because the thing is that if you decide to do other things, you can all stick it under the same umbrella. And
exactly.
That's very smart.
Yeah.
So your business degree is actually paying off. So
tremendously.
Yeah. So what else from your business degree are you taking in, kind of applying to this? And then we'll get back to personal training.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd say the marketing aspect helps a lot. There was a couple projects that we had to do. We had to take a couple of the products that my professor showed us, and we had to make and sell our own product. So we had to take that product and give it certain attributes and make it attractive for selling. So I thought that was very helpful.
So how have you used that in your business?
Yeah, because even though I'm mostly a service-based, I decided to get into a little bit of products too.
Oh, okay.
So I have just recently, invested into some booty bands. And so
some what?
The booty bands. So the resistance bands.
Oh, okay.
Pretty much.
Okay.
But they're kind of a new thing of booty bands.
Okay.
And yeah, did the typical business thing where I found a manufacturer and got a test sample, and I was like, I like it. This is great. And they showed me what the label would look like, and I was like, great, it's awesome. And got a shipment of 500 of them. So.
And how's that going?
Pretty good.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. So what are you doing besides just saying, hey, I've got one? What do you do as far as how do you you market that? What does your go-to-market look like?
Yeah. So I mostly using social media. If I'm on Facebook, obviously it's mostly just your friends and family that are seeing your stuff. And but I'm also, since I have been so community-based, from the very first year that I started, I have a community of people who have already know and trust me. And so they were like, oh yeah. And then the 7 a.m. class that I instruct 4 or 5 days a week, they all got one. And so,
okay.
and it works into, our workouts even for upper body stuff too. So they really have enjoyed that. And so the more that I have branched out to my community, the more that has expanded. And then bringing it to online, I have it posted on my website. And then I broadcast a lot about it on my IG, my Instagram. So.
Okay. And so, and we'll get back to this at the end of this too. And we'll post links to your Instagram and your website and all that stuff at the end of the show notes. But, so where can people find you on Instagram?
So it's my first and last name, Madeline Hatch 21. Hopefully super simple.
Okay. And then your website?
That one, not so simple. www.firstversuslast. So first vs last.dev.
Okay.
It came from an old blog that I did. It transferred over. It was like, oh, you want to use this from something else you've done? And I was like, okay, sure.
Okay. Well, that can always change later.
Yeah.
So, well, cool. So you've spun up the booty bands.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you call them that, or is that just generically what they're called, or that's your name for them?
I think they're more generically just resistance bands,
okay.
But it does tend to excite people more to hear booty bands.
Well, of course, so it's like Madeline's booty band. So it's like, oh, that's a good one. Actually, I like that. So you can have that.
Okay.
So you worked for this gym for a while, with this gentleman in Martinez, and then you decided to branch on your own. Do you currently have a space that you work out of, or are you doing just kind of community stuff? What's that look like?
Yeah, right now it looks like, so the 7 a.m. class I actually do at the community pool in Crockett. And so that's kind of my space. Other than that, like I don't have my own space, but I was using the community center and I'm using the community pool. And I am mostly just trying to grow online. So I think that would probably be the best way to go right now.
Okay. So, and I get the whole not wanting to have everyone goes, oh, I want to have my own space. It's like, there's a lot of stuff that comes with that. There's rent and PG&E and, or wherever you are. It's just like, so it's like being able to figure out a way around that, which just sounds like you're working on, which I think is brilliant. It's like, rather than saddle yourself with some, because, like the booty bands are going. So it's like, this was a good investment, because it's like they're headed out the door and, they're not going to sit there for 5 or 10 years, and people go, what's this? But, so I think that's a brilliant move. So what is your, like moving forward, so you've been out there for a year and a half or 2 years, probably coming up on 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, first 5 years are like tough.
Yeah.
Launching a business, and not saddling yourself with rent is probably a really, really sharp move.
Yeah.
So you're looking to move forward like online, and what does that look like?
Yeah. So, when you're in person, like for instance, when I was a personal trainer at the studio, us as personal trainers, when we would first meet, we would have these certain Google Sheets basically that we had templates in. And that's how we tracked like how many sessions they're at, what their workouts were, how their nutrition is going, what their cardio should be looking like, that kind of stuff. So we had all the metrics basically all laid out in their sheets and in their folders. And so really the only difference is that if we meet in person, for 3 sessions a week as an in-person trainer, when you're online, it's like you still have the same metrics that you keep them accountable to, and you still meet with them. I mean, I only meet with my clients once a week, so we just kind of go like, how was your week? How are you doing? Are there any barriers? Things like that. But for the most part, they just do their workouts because they'll probably already have a gym access, or they'll have, workout stuff at home. And so, I just kind of make sure they are held accountable that way. So it was pretty easy to transfer over, honestly.
Okay.
It is.
So you made a couple mentions in there about, so what's a session look like with you? Because you got things like metrics, and you've got what the workout looks like, what the nutrition looks like. So walk us through, like, okay, we're sitting down. You're so hey folks, we're gonna have a session. So anyways, let's go through a session.
It's like the introductory.
Yeah.
Like so like for a workout, right? So if most of the time we start people out with phase 1. So the NASM OPT models, if you get NASM certified, then
and NASM stands for?
So the National Association of Sports Medicine.
Okay.
And they have what they teach you is the OPT model, so optimum performance training model. There's 5 phases to it. I don't remember all their names. I just know that level 1, phase 1 is foundation, and then 2 is a little bit more stability. They just kind of go from like you're building your foundation to, okay, now you've leveled up 1. Okay, now you've leveled up more and more and more. And then once you get to level 5, you're like pretty athletic at that point. And so I usually start everyone out with phase 1 just to see how's your balance, how's your core, how's your overall strength, where are you at with all those things. And so we'll take an assessment and see like where are you tight, where is your fascia buildup, where is your squat, how do you squat, and where's your mobility, where's your flexibility. So we look at all of those things, and then based on all that information, we'll also take your baseline body fat scan too. So we'll see where all those metrics are. So based on all that information, I'll compile the workout. So we have that OPT model, like I was mentioning, where it goes through foam rolling, stretching, balance, and core as like the warm up. And then we'll go into the resistance part. And so if it's an upper body, then we'll focus on upper body. If it's lower, then we'll focus on lower. And so that's kind of what I did with my clients, is I would kind of alternate. And then we have a little bit of a cool down session. So generally that's what it looks like.
Okay. And when you're talking about their nutrition, what does that look like?
Yeah. So I know with the studio training, they had it was pretty rudimentary too. You wrote them up a letter of like, this is the expectation you're going to have to follow. We'd have a list of different foods that are healthy, right? They're good protein sources, good carb choices, and fat choices. And I like to add in, so I'd go to macrocalculatornet.com, I think, which is where you put your baseline information, you put your like age, height, weight, all that kind of stuff, and it would pull up your macros. And so then you would take all of those numbers based on whether you'd want to maintain your weight, drop some weight, or be very extreme. I would take a screenshot of like mild weight loss. Like I want that one. I'd plug it into, this for my new client. Okay. So you're going to see all these listed foods here, but it's not really just enough to see these lists, because you'll eat that and think, oh, I'm being so healthy, but if you're not getting enough protein, if you're not, if you're someone who eats too many sources of fat, and it's, bad fat too, then you're going overboard. You need to narrow it down. And then obviously a lot of people are like, oh no, carbs are so bad. And so wherever people land with all of these things, right? So following the macros just kind of gives you an idea of like, based on your ratio, based on what we have found about your body, this is what's going to help you to mildly lose some weight. So it's nothing extreme. It's rather sustainable. And so every time we'd set someone up with, this plan, pretty quickly, with just the frequency of 3 trainings a week, coming into the studio and following this plan, when they're off doing their own thing, they would start to lose inches pretty quickly.
Cool. So, I know the carb thing is like, everyone's like, oh, carbs are evil, And for one, I cycle a lot. So it's just like, no, carbs are my friend. Good carbs. Let's qualify that. Good carbs, are my friend, as is good protein.
Exactly.
I stay away from protein drinks, because the thing is I used to drink a lot of them, and I got a lot of kidney stones. And so it was just like,
okay.
Yeah. Well, I also wasn't drinking enough water, but that's a whole nother discussion. So, water is our friend, folks. But talk a little bit about like protein and carbs. Like, what are some good ones to work with? So I'm a fan of chicken. My wife and I fight over whether it's chicken breast or chicken thighs. She likes thighs. I like, and it's just like, it's this whole thing. But we also work in with like a steak. And the part of the reason that we do it, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, you tell me I'm full of it, which is fine, is that it's a really high source of really dense protein. And, we grill it, not too much, and then cut it up and cut most of the fat off of it, which is fat is flavor, but that's,
Yeah.
But what are some other really good sources of protein? I mean, those are mine, and you can tell me if I'm wrong.
No, I mean, those are great. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, those are great. Probably one of the two better ones in my opinion. Obviously, then there's there's shrimp, prawns. I know this one's a little bit higher on the fat side, but it's also got a lot of omega-3s, which salmon.
Oh, yes.
So I personally will have salmon at least twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
Still a lot of good sources of protein too. Then there's the not so tasty one, but it's all just straight protein and it's a little bit more bodybuilder friendly. It's tilapia.
Well, you can make it tasty.
Yeah.
It's cheap and you can make it tasty.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's basically a blank sheet and you can like add things to it. It's kind of like tofu, which I can't stand tofu, but but yeah, it's like, again, it's what do you want to make it taste like?
Exactly.
So things like cod are good and things like that. So seafood,
yeah, and like what you said, having steaks pretty often. A lot of people are so, yay or nay about it, right? Like my brother's newly a vegan, and so he's of course like, no, of course not. But I do kind of agree with the fact that like they have a lot of good sources of iron, a lot of good sources of protein. It's just very satiating too. It's got a lot of good things about it. And so although, it might just be a once a week thing, it still is the reason why I feel like I'm like, I don't know how to describe it, but just very solid, just very solid in how I feel, and my, mood and hormones aren't going like this. I just feel very stable. And so, yeah, that is a good one. I've been kind of more on the sweeter side of protein sources, so like cottage cheese or Greek yogurt.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So yes, but one of my downfalls is I love sweets, but that's like yummy sweets. But yeah, it's like Greek yogurt with some berries or something in it, and by the way, I don't eat like that all the time. I really should, but I don't. So, but yeah, it's well, if you guys see here in the office, we got lots of candy and other horrible things for us. But so like things like Greek yogurt, plain Greek yogurt, and then you throw fruit in it, right? Because I know this, from what I understand, even though it's delicious, it's like you get the and it's got too much sugar in it. I love cottage cheese. My wife hates it, so I have to buy it for myself, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome, but so let's talk carbs. Exactly. So talk to us about carbs, because I mean, like, I love a baked potato, and it just let's not throw a bunch of stuff on it, even though it's delicious that way. But a little butter, because butter, it's all the butter that'll kill us. It's not a little bit. At least that's my opinion. And then salt. And one of the best things I learned recently is to boil them like little new potatoes in they're called Syracuse salt boiled potatoes, and they're absolutely delicious.
Yeah.
It's a really, really salty water. You boil them like you would a boiled potato, and then pull them out, and they're amazing.
So good.
Oh, yeah. Too much salt, I'm sure, for most people's diets. But talk to us like things like potatoes. And there's a bunch of stuff which are, because carbs are evil, So walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of have a theory that follows along the guidelines of macro tracking, because it made me realize that there's a particular kind of ratio that agrees most with our bodies. And so I know every time the whole, carbohydrate topic comes up, I feel like it's just that the carbs are targeted in isolation too much, and that the only reason why they're deemed as bad is because if protein intake is too low, which it has been, then the carbohydrate amount is just making up for that, right?
Which is, well, so that would be why you get the crash.
Exactly.
Oh man, I could never, because it's just like, eat some delicious pancakes.
Yeah.
And you had 3 strips of bacon, which bacon is really bad for us, but man, is it really good.
So good.
But yeah, that's why it's like, an hour later, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Carb coma is what I call it.
Yes.
Carb coma.
Yes. So what can we do to combat carb coma? What does that look like?
Just add more protein. That's really all it is. People think, oh, take the carbs out. Oh, don't eat them anymore. And it's not true. Keep the carbs in. Just add like 2 to 3 times more protein. So if I were eating if I go to IHOP and I get a plate full of pancakes, I'm going to eat all those darn pancakes. But what I'm going to do is, because I doubt that, IHOP or wherever would have that much cottage cheese or Greek yogurt, I would just maybe sneak some in myself and eat it alongside with it. I would probably take like 2 servings and I would just eat it with it. Therefore, you don't have to add as much syrup, in my opinion. I just wouldn't add as much syrup. Maybe a little bit of butter too.
You got to have some syrup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to have some.
Well, I'm thinking now I'm going to be walking around with cottage cheese in my pocket or something like that.
I know.
Probably not good. Or I'll make my wife carry it in her purse. She's go, what is this? Yeah. So now let's talk a little bit about eggs, because eggs are a pretty good source of protein. So you're not saying add eggs to the bunch, right? Like an omelet or something like that. But you're talking about cottage cheese, and
that's just my favorite one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's you totally could do that too. So if you had a little bit of pancakes, make that sweet, and if you had some eggs or sausage or whatever on the side, yeah. So you have a little bit of sweet and savory.
So you're not a fan of eggs? Oh my gosh, my one little feeling is hurt. So.
Well, it's mostly, I guess it's mostly just because I realized that my own cholesterol from eating so many eggs and other things has been a little bit on the higher side. So,
okay.
Yeah, I'm not trying to demonize eggs. They're great, and I encourage it. I just know that for me, it's being on mostly of the bodybuilder diet, it's also very much of an extreme. And so if you go too far that way, then you're most likely going to get something.
Okay.
So my cholesterol kind of skyrocketed, and I've just been, taking immediate action on replacing, even if it's good cholesterol, even if it's just, in my mind, I'm just eliminating all cholesterol for a little bit. So.
Okay. Well, but then I can see why eating the salmon would actually be good, because it does, it has the good fish oils and all that stuff. Plus, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's roasted and yeah. Honey, we're having salmon this weekend.
Yeah.
We've got a bunch of pork that I've got to make stuff with. I've got pork tenderloin, and I've got pulled pork and pork chops. I can make those into anything, but it's I love bacon, but I'm trying to steer clear of it. It makes everything better.
Yeah.
But
really
so does. What are maybe a couple other tips that you would give people, just kind of generic, it's hey, you're trying to live a healthy life, it's I think we talked about, learn to move, get up off your butt, get up off the sofa, go for a walk, something.
Yeah.
And then what are some dietary tips that you would maybe give people, snacking? Because that's the most evil thing ever is snacking, because it'll murder you. So, cookies are good.
Yeah. I'm still kind of, I guess, on my, everyone just needs to up their protein.
Mm-hmm.
What do they call it when you stand up on your mountain and you just scream from the top? I'm kind of still, just everyone I talk to about, that, they're just oh yeah, it's always so hard to get my protein in. And I'm yeah, I get it. It's, it's either, protein that you have to cook, which, takes a lot of time and prep, or it's just not as convenient to have it on hand because it needs to be refrigerated or something. So it does make sense, but it does make such a huge difference too at the same time. And so if it really just takes that extra hour to have to prep something or make sure you have something on hand, it's going to pay off in the long run. And so I think people need to visually associate that if they really want to make that change and feel better and not be so, moody in their energy. And so, yeah.
Okay. So protein.
That's a good start.
Moderation on other things.
Yeah.
Kick up the protein. Well, and to your point, I'm thinking about this, and I'm going to your point. Like for instance, I'll make a nice steak for my wife and I, and then we'll have a baked potato because, of course, it's delicious.
Yeah.
Or we'll do, like I said, some boiled potatoes, some roasted potatoes. Sometimes I'll do that, just so that way it's not as perceived evil, but. And then we'll throw another vegetable in there, I'll roast some vegetables or something.
Yes.
And I find that, after that, it's like, I don't need to have the pie.
Exactly.
It's like I could still have it, but I don't need to have it.
Exactly.
Or the cobbler, which is also delicious. I love it. It's like, here's the fitness person going, oh my God, I love that so much. Well, and but
what it's meant for. Like, I'm still human too. It's meant to like appeal to your taste buds. So, I don't feel bad ever being like, oh my gosh, I love ice cream. I love this, because it's just meant to be palatable. So it makes sense. Like, it tastes good.
Yeah.
And that's why like tilapia doesn't. And that's why sometimes vegetables don't. I will say like sometimes, a certain thing doesn't taste great, but it's good for you. And so it's that rule of like, well, you can, like what you said, you can make it taste however you want. Kind of gives your power back to you.
Yeah. We'll see again. It's like you said, it's like, steak and stuff is, even hamburgers, it's like people go, oh, they got terrible fat. Well, if you throw them on a grill, most of the fat cooks out. So it's just like, that meatloaf, which is cooking in its own deliciousness, which, again, it's like fat is flavor.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
which means I'm very flavorful. But to your point, and I like that, it's just that kind of, it's not about depriving yourself. It's like throw some more protein in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that you didn't say about, throwing protein shakes and stuff like that in it. Because, again, I've had problems with protein shakes. I just avoid them. And, whereas if I do high quality proteins, whether it's, pork or chicken or,
turkey.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm the turkey cooker in the family now, in my wife's family. They're like, oh, you've got it forever. And so so I love turkey, but
yeah.
Okay. So you've given us some really great tips. So what are maybe 2 more tips that you would give us as like kind of a walking away thing? It's like somebody coming to tell you, it's like, oh yeah, I'd like to, step up my fitness or something like that. Or I'd just like to feel better. What would be a couple of things that you would tell them?
I guess without very much context, because I think that since everyone is so individual, I would ask first. I mean, obviously the basics, like, are you drinking enough water? How was your sleep at night?
I'm not laughing because it's like, you drinking enough water? Are you getting sleep?
It's
like,
right. It's just the basics. And it feels kind of like, I feel kind of annoying for being so of the basics, but it's like, it's true. Like I have to check in with my clients about it all the time. And then, and still, like, they're just like, oh, like, I got to get better about it. Got to get better. But when they do, they say, I'm so glad you keep pushing me because I felt so great. And I was like, I know, it's just, so anyways, it's just those basics. It's the sleep. Are you at least walking every day? Are you going into nature and meditating? Meditating is great. I know it's hippy dippy and cheesy, but I'll set aside like 5 minutes, even if it's like right when I wake up first thing in the morning. I'll just set something and it will help me go back to sleep if I need to go back to sleep, or it helps me kind of just not go on my phone too, which is a thing that a lot of people do first thing in the morning. And I know if you're trying not to, then that's a hack that I've done, because if you're just laying there and you're listening to a meditation, it just centers you back into your body. And then you just decide like, okay, starting my day. And then it's just kind of like a little tiny tweak that kind of gets you going. At least it's worked quite well for me. So
cool.
So yeah.
Those are, it's amazing because the basics and the fundamentals, because it's like your first sessions with your clients. It's like, it's fundamentals. Are you getting enough to drink? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you taking a walk? It's like, no, we're not going to go lift 400 pounds. It's like, let's go for a walk.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, I'm, my big thing is I forget to drink water. My wife does the same thing, and she works outdoors. And so come the summer, it makes a big difference, because it's like she gets dehydrated, and then it's just like, honey, you need to, and we're older, so it's just like, it really doesn't pay off.
Yeah.
So I really want to thank you for your time. And again, where can people find you?
I guess mostly my IG would probably be, my Instagram might be the best.
Okay. And your Instagram handle is, again?
Madeline Hatch 21.
Cool. Okay. And we'll also put a link to that in the show notes. And we will also put a link to your website in the show notes. And again, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for tuning in to DVC Alumni, where every story inspires the next, the podcast for the DVC Alumni Association. You can contact us at alumni@dvc.edu with any comments, and be sure to leave a like and subscribe to our podcast.